Speaker, and I'm sure that you are too, because there's a very interesting gender shift in this room for the first time in 3 days. So welcome, stick around and talk to more people so we reach this balance. The next speaker is Cathryn Posey, the founder of Tech by Superwomen, which is a movement that wants to enable and empower women or people in tech. Usually people who do this kind of work, they're very giving, and she's very much into enabling, inspiring, uplifting other people, but now it's her moment, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to hearing her speak. Kat?
Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Walter Lippmann said, "When all think alike, then no one is thinking." He's pointing out something fundamental. The health of our bodies, our ecosystem, and our planet depend on diversity. So does the future of our tech community. This is not about women versus men. This is not about a gender war playing out as a game of musical chairs. This is not about fixing women. This is about the future of our collective community and our ability to innovate. This is about what becomes possible when we're able to harness the innovation that lives at the intersection of diverse perspectives. We really need to come together in order to disrupt the cultural and systemic forces at work. Did you know that your users are most likely women, and that women are now the lead adopters of technology? In fact, in Western nations, women are 17% more likely to use the internet than their male counterparts each month. I was surprised to learn from Dr. Genevieve Bell's research that women are now the vast majority of users of all internet-enabled devices, and that women are more likely to be the users of GPS, mobile, and texting technologies. Turns out that women are also the single biggest user group and the fastest growing user group of all social networks. I'm here today in part because of a tweet. In 2011, I was living in Anchorage, Alaska, my home state, and I was not only cold, but geographically isolated. But it turns out the world was just a tweet away. Twitter became pivotal to my career and also to launching Tech by Superwomen. What had started out as a hashtag grew into a movement. And I'm just one of many women who find technology empowering and are using it creatively in our day-to-day lives. Here's another interesting fact. It turns out for Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 500 companies with the largest percentage of women board of directors outperform those who have the lowest percentage of women in their board of directors. And Catalyst research really bears this out. In fact, when it comes to return on sales, companies that have the highest percentage of women board of directors outperform those with the lowest by 42%. And when it comes to return on equity, they outperform it by 53%. And perhaps most interesting to investors in the audience, when it comes to return on capital investment, boards that have the highest percentage of women represented outperform those with the lowest by 66%. But here are some other numbers. 56, 63, 18. 56% of women in technical careers drop out of their career mid-career. This is double the attrition rate of men. This is according to Harvard Business Review study. Digging into why, additional research revealed that 63% of women in STEM-related fields reported experiencing sexual harassment. And if you are a startup and you have a woman as one of your founders, you are 18% less likely to receive funding than all male teams. Of course, we've all read the headlines about women being harassed, threatened, and bullied on the web. I don't know about you, but when I read this, I want to fix it. And I know that you do too. I have some ideas on how we can do that. We need to apply immediacy, risk-taking, and bold action to solve these challenges. In short, perhaps Silicon Valley's favorite word sums up what we need to do. We need to disrupt this. And it starts by disrupting bias, our own and each other's. And you have to begin by educating yourself. Stanford is one of the best definitions, I think, of bias. In a nutshell, implicit bias is something that we hold an attitude or belief towards a group or a person unconsciously. Explicit bias is an attitude or belief we hold towards a group or a person subconsciously, or consciously, sorry. And what's interesting is that this often diverges. In other words, you could hold at your knowledge no bias, but implicitly you might. And this has to do with systems. So let's go back in time. The year is 1842. The place is London, and you are a mathematical prodigy. You are the child of a famous poet who was raised by a single mom, and you grow up to spend time with Charles Darwin, Charles Dickens, and Michael Faraday. Your longtime collaborator receives hard-fought funding to build an analytics engine, and you come on board to translate the notes. But instead of merely translating the notes, you go much further. In fact, you write the first computer program, and you accurately predict the future of computing. You work feverishly for over a year, corresponding with your collaborator, excited about the possibilities of your discovery. And then, your work is credited to your collaborator, called merely interpretations of his work. And your contributions are not accurately recognized until over a century later. This is the story of Ada Lovelace. She was born in a time when the first institution in Britain to even educate women did not exist. And in a time when, by law, if a woman was married, all of her earnings automatically became her partner's. We can only begin to imagine the implicit and explicit bias that Ada experienced, and how that might have affected her spirit and her psyche. Imagine for a moment if this was a different story. Imagine if her contributions were accurately credited right away, or even in the decades that followed. Imagine if in 1842, a woman's role in science and math was welcomed. Would that have changed the trajectory of women in STEM? Would women have entered into STEM much sooner? Would we even need a movement? Now let's be honest. Ada's story is not just a story about bias. And neither is bias the only issue that women face in our tech community. We also have to examine the role of bullying, of sexual harassment, and of unequal pay. These must be examined and disrupted. What story will you write? What will you disrupt? My mom has this powerful saying. She says that the door to power only opens from the inside. And here we are, on the inside. The power to change things. I believe that each and every single one of us can use our voices, our perspectives, and our advocacy to open that door. I also believe that in the future, women's participation in and leadership in our tech community can be commonplace, and that our unending quest to innovation will be in hyperdrive. And that future begins now. Thank you so much.